Yo, 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 what is up? Welcome to the KillJoy Jake YouTube channel. It's getting strange on the page today because we're talking about The Strangers Pray at Night, the sequel to the 2008 film, The Strangers. If you didn't catch that by the title. What's up, fellas? How we doing? What's up? What's up? Mary's a little more interested in talking about A Quiet Place Day One. All good. But we're going to talk a little bit about 2018's The Strangers Pray at Night, because we got The Strangers Chapter 1 coming in just like 2 days. Look at that. Look at that, Mary. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Am I going to VidCon on May 22nd? Give me an invite. Let's make it happen. I'll do some shit at VidCon. That'd be so much fun. Paula Fitzhenry, what's up, Paula? How's it going? Welcome in, welcome in. We're going to talk about The Strangers here in just a second. I'm going to bring on my guests as well, which Gremlin Rio 22 was asking about. What's... I don't know if I butchered that or not, but what's up, my friend? How you doing? Hello, hello. Splattercast is waiting patiently backstage, and they're going to come on in a second to talk a little bit about The Strangers Pray at Night. I want to do the voice for the trailer for the next one. It'd be so much fun. Mr. Rick, thanks for being a member, my friend. What's up? What's up? Can't wait to talk about The Strangers. I might see it on Saturday, so I'll have to pass Friday's stream, but let's have fun. That's all good. You can always watch the replay, my friend. It's going to be a fun stream nonetheless. Friday, we're talking about Chapter 1. So if you're like, I like the 2018 movie, but like, I want to get to the new one, Jake. Well, guess what? Friday, come stop on by. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to talk non-spoilers for maybe like the first 20-ish minutes or so, and then I'll warn you guys when we get into spoilers for those who are not able to see it before Friday night. There's some Thursday screenings in my area, so I know not everyone's going to be able to check it out, but it's all good. Scott Royston, what's up, my friend? How's it going? Welcome in, welcome in. Welcome, welcome. We're going to be talking Strangers tonight, so throw your Strangers Pray at Night theories, opinions, thoughts, whatever in the chat, because this is a weird sequel. It's a bit of a divisive sequel for some, too. What's up, Brobotic? How you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. It's a sequel that takes a different direction in terms of tone. It is written by the same guy from the first movie, which is interesting, Brian Bertino, but directed by Johannes Roberts, who has said to put his own like little flair, little touch on it to make it something different, something special. And some people really don't like that little touch. So we're going to get into it tonight, though. I'm really excited. It's an interesting movie to talk about, nonetheless. Ty Lee, what's up, dog? Saying, just watch Destroy All Neighbors, and man, I enjoyed it. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. I have not seen it, but I love the title, Destroy All Neighbors. That's interesting. I'm here for it, Ty. Welcome in, man. Welcome in, welcome in. My Chunky Jordy, thanks for being a member. Appreciate the heck out of you. Hi. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Ryan Swayze, I am so excited for They Follows. It Follows is one of my all-time favorite horror movies. It is a top 10 for old Jake. I love it. Very excited to see what they do with the sequel. Even though I'm kind of the opinion that It Follows doesn't really need a sequel. I love it. I love it. It's a great movie, and I'm excited to see it become a franchise. Mario Rodriguez is saying, loved it. All right, hell yeah, dog. Scott Royston is saying, better than the original. Ooh, okay. Hot takes all around. I love it, man. My Junkie Jordy, I love Pray at Night. Just watched both films a few months ago. Well, fantastic. We talked about the first one last week. We're talking about Pray at Night tonight. I want to bring on my guests. I have Dylan and Luke from Splattercast. What is up, fellas? How's it going?
Happy to be here. Happy to be here as always. Last week was such a transcending experience for me, and I was very eager to get in and discuss Strangers Pray at Night, because we walked away saying that The Strangers was something that Luke and I were kind of, I guess a little detached from, and we ended up really loving it. So having mixed feelings about the sequel, I was very excited to give this one another go around when I finally sat down to view it.
Yeah, same here. I was excited, but I was a little misled because I thought, when it says Pray at Night, I thought that E was an A, and I was looking for some religious horror here, and it just didn't pan out for me.
A bit misleading there with the title.
A little bit. I gotta learn my spellings.
I really thought, with the first Omen coming out this year in Immaculate, it would be wild if The Strangers took a religious horror route like here in May. That would be, it would be the 2024 would be the religious horror year of the century, I think.
Let's end it in a church or in the basement of a church. Let's do it.
Let's make it happen, man. I love it. So
I mean, in the first film, they are passing out those pamphlets at the end, the little religious pamphlets.
All ties together.
Are you a sinner? Sometimes. I don't know. We'll see.
And they have those kids in the trailer for Chapter 1, so who knows, man? Who knows? We could take it down that route if we want to. I love it. But let me ask you guys. So you guys aren't as we were kind of talking behind the stage a little bit about like what your guys' thoughts on the sequel were. You're not as crazy about this one as the original, but I want to hear your guys' full take. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Starting with our friend Dylan over here. What is your take on Strangers Prey at Night?
So like going into it, like I was saying before, I gave this a watch probably like a year or so. It was definitely on DVD or Blu-ray or maybe even a digital code at some point when I was working at a used media store. And I went into it being like, okay, I heard this was like a so-so sequel. There wasn't the big resurgence and love for it. And I went in and just was like, okay, this is nothing like the original. This feels very hokey and goofy. It's not for me. And I kind of clocked out after a while and didn't remember much about it. And kind of leading up to this over the last few months, I mean, even before that, I'd started to see the opinions kind of shift on this one. A lot more people started coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, this is actually a really fun ode to 80s slasher films. And after, again, like I said at the start last week, and us talking about it and seeing the positive stuff in the chat here, I was eager to see it. And really detaching myself and saying this is a different take, a different style. It's the same killers, but we're just going with a little bit of a new, fresh image. I had a lot of fun with this. It's short, it's easy to please, and I gotta say, there are some moments in this that I absolutely adored that they went the other way, because it's like, I'm really glad that we got this. I didn't think we'd ever get something like this with the Strangers Killers, even though I think my heart still prefers the intensity and the rawness of the first film.
Yeah, and I was on that same side with Dylan last week, where I was pretty dismissive of it, to be honest. Where, every so often you see these kind of films that were, and no one was really hot on when they initially came out, and then it's like, well, actually, this is one of the best films of the year. Kind of almost gets comical, and I had seen that about Prey at Night, and I was like, I don't really know. I remember being unhappy about that one, and I had seen it, I think, shortly after it came out. It wasn't in the theater. But like I said last week, I gave it a passive watch. It wasn't necessarily, as soon as this thing starts, it starts feeling different for me. So it wasn't capturing my attention like the original Strangers. And I went in there expecting, more of what we got from that 2008. And, I think at that point, watching it on that first watch, it was hard to reconcile that, hey, this is a completely different film. So I hadn't revisited since, 2018? Is that when it came out?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I've watched it twice since the last time I've seen you, Jake. And
wow.
I gotta say, it flipped me. I had to give it that second watch because I was like, am I liking this as much as I did? And I gotta be honest. We talked last week about the pool scene, and there's a handful of more scenes in here that I absolutely enjoy that really do build some of that tension. So I walked away really happy with this one, surprisingly, honestly.
I really enjoy it too. I when I first saw it, I was kind of in the same boat as you guys. I was just like, this wasn't the same as the original, but I enjoyed it for different reasons. That was kind of where my headspace was with it. It was odd because it's so much more like fun and fast paced. It almost feels like you're watching like a season of Stranger Things or like an episode of that. Like it's almost similar to that experience where watching the original Strangers, it almost feels like watching a modern day Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it's just like,
yes,
it's two totally different like universes that we're basically visiting in this same franchise. And I think that's where a lot of the like discrepancies, I should say, come from with this sequel. But I guess if there's any big question to start off with here is like, what's the big thing? What's the big thing that makes this one different from the original film for you?
It's all tone. I mean, like, this is definitely one of those things where the first film, you said it perfectly there by comparing it to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, although not the goriest or the bloodiest film in that franchise, it's still got this intensity to it. It's still got this griminess to it. That's the first film in a nutshell. It is intense. It's rough to sit through. That ending, I mean, like, it's one of those things where after really studying it for a while, it's heartbreaking. This one, which is kind of odd to say because I do enjoy the characters in this one, I think a little bit more than the first one, just because I think that they have much broader, wider personalities. I think that like you just have this element of fun slasherness to this, whereas the first one again is just really mean and intense. This one, when people die, it's like, oh, that sucks, but it's still like damn, that was a cool kill. Like, oh, that had a lot of style to it. I like the way they built up to that. And obviously the music, the little needle drops here and there are a lot of fun. And this thing is just chock full of many, many 80s and 70s horror film references.
Yeah, and I think initially when I had gotten into watching this on my first go around way back when, I think I did get those feelings of Stranger Things, and I think at that point it was kind of that turning point of I was getting a little fatigue of that kind of Stranger Things style. But I think kind of revisiting it right now, I think the things that I found maybe a little bit annoying back in 2018. I've warmed up to more so now. Like I'll go to the opening credits, completely stylized and very different. It does honestly feel like I'm watching something like John Carpenter, like some of the 80s stuff. I feel where it's just completely disposable, where it's like it just almost this isn't a ghost story, but it feels almost like a ghost story where they open it up. We have the water, kind of like The Fog, where it's kind of reminiscent of something like that, where it's just this kind of fun little story that happens, I think. So I think for this one, it's reminiscent of the 80s where when you look at the 2008, that's so built on that tension, you can't really go in and out of it. But like this one here, this is something where I can flip it on and have some fun with it and just walk away and then come back into it. And I found myself having just, the 2008 absolute quality film. This one, I would say, I prefer the 2008 version, but I think this one here is a little more fun to watch just because it is so digestible. And I think that's really what I gravitated toward now, where it's like when the kills happen, they make them count. They do build that tension in the moment, but then they kind of just have fun with it. And I think that overall, this is just an absolute fun watch.
It's a much more fun movie than the original. I totally agree, but I think I do prefer the 2008 movie as well. Echo chamber in here, right? No, I'm kidding. But I love how scary the 2008 one is. Like, there's something about it that it fills me with dread. I feel like the strangers are coming into my house when I'm watching it. This movie, it's more so like scary in the moment when you're watching it, maybe not so much afterwards. I think that's what the original Strangers does so well is you watch that, you feel dirty, you need a shower. After you watch this one, you were like, that was really fun. We listened to a lot of really fun tunes. We hung out with some of our favorite killers, and our main characters got away. They won. It was a little more triumphant. That to me is like the biggest thing that separates this first one from the sequel. It's like it's a little more like you kind of know your characters are going to get out of this alive, I think, like just because of the tone. You know what I mean? It's got like this more fun, upbeat tone where the original is almost like it's like almost listening to like a Nirvana album versus like a modern pop album. Like I feel like that's that's kind of
absolutely
the differentiating factor here. But I love that. I love that about both films. It's something, if whatever you want, you can kind of get it from this franchise. You want something fun in a slasher, go to the sequel. If you want something more just pure pain, go to the original film. With that being said, what's your favorite kill in this one? Not that there's too many of them. And I'll start with Dylan.
I mean, I think that the easy answer is probably the pool scene. I think like that's probably the one that's the most flashy. It's the most exciting. And granted, like you guys had to correct me off air, it's not technically a kill because he does survive, I guess, or at least he's in limbo at the end in the hospital bed. So
he kills what's her face.
Okay, yeah, true. She
Pinup
dies.
Girl, right? That's the one who dies there.
But it is one of those things where it's just kind of like it's such a cool, fun scene. God, what is the song that they're using in that? It's the
because I need you more than ever.
Exactly. It's like it does that rare thing where like that totally feels like they did something very similar around this time too, where like I feel like it did a terrible job with like those needle drops when it comes to like It Chapter 2, I should say, after Deadpool came out, where it's like we feel like we need to add that comedy to it. There's no comedy with Total Eclipse of the Heart there. It's actually just like this odd juxtaposition, and I'm a sucker for a good needle drop. But oddly enough, I think that Christina Hendricks' character probably is the more tragic death, I would say. I didn't like seeing her character go. I thought that was definitely the one that was like the hardest one to watch. So that's going to be my tie right there. I think it's between those two.
Going into this one, it was, there are so many great kills in this. Yes, when they make them, when they do them, they make them count. And I think probably my favorite out of everyone, including the strangers, I would probably go Dollface, just because that plays perfect in how, you know, when you look at a typical horror movie, it's like, well, why aren't you just doing this? And, you know, Kinsey picks up the gun and then blows her away, you know, and I absolutely love that because it's like, you know, she's taunting her with the keys. And you would think, okay, well, just blow her away or get away, do anything instead of just screaming, you know. And she absolutely picks up the gun, just like I remember verbalizing it when I had first watched this. It's like, just shoot her. And then boom, she did, because I completely forgotten how that sequence had went. And I love when, you know, it's just a short turnaround. It doesn't take long for her to taunt her and then get what's coming to her, you know. So it's like this. I'm not a big fan of the "why are you doing this? Why not" line, just because it's a retread without the tension. It doesn't have that eeriness to it, but I absolutely love that you get that instant gratification of Kinsey just killing Dollface right there. And plus it's surprising because, you know, you go through the 2008 version and all the strangers make it out, and then this one's like, oh wait, everything's on the table here. We're gonna maybe run through our villains here. So for me, I think that's the most probably my favorite kill. But I wanted to bring up where it's kind of like, in terms of like, what a way to start a film. I absolutely love when Pinup Girl gets into bed with the guy that's sleeping.
Yeah.
I think that's just, yes, we don't see that kill, but I think that's just a great kind of start to the film. It's just, I forgot that existed as well. And I was like, my first watch, I was like, I absolutely love the start of this.
I thought that the reveal too, I gotta say, of their bodies was really well done. I really love that. And I think the effects there are top notch. Like really like zooming, because I watched it on my phone. So it's one of those things where it was real close up, and I was just like, man, that's some really good effects work on those bodies there.
Oh, absolutely, dude. And Luke, to your point, I think what's so cool about both sets of these characters, you know, we have our antagonists, we have our protagonists, with the shotgun sequence, especially, I think it's a really like a spitting image of this, is that we have our protagonists not fucking around. Like, they are in survival mode this whole time, where our strangers are playing with their food this whole movie, which is something that I love that they kept consistent from the first movie to the sequel. Another thing that I'm hoping Chapter 1 can hit on as well. But I'll to avoid the echo chamber, I do want to talk about another kill that I really like in this. I don't know if it's my favorite, but I really like Martin Henderson's death, just because of the situation it creates. Like, he's trapped in the car with the post or whatever holding him in, and then the man in the mask just gets in, sits next to him, turns on the radio, and starts stabbing the shit out of him. I love that. I think that's horrifying. What a terrible way to go.
And in the build-up where the son leaves, he's like, just go, and he's just kind of sitting there dealing with the pain of being stuck in this. And then we see our sackhead guy, you know, first we have that shot of him on the other side, then he disappears, walks back, and then we see him, and it's just this kind of buildup of dad doesn't even know, and Sackhead's just walking up and casually gets in and just kind of sits down. It's just like when they settle on that shot of both them in that front seat, like, when, yes, this isn't like as tense as 2008, but when they take those moments and they build that tension to him just fiddling with the radio and then taking out right before he stabs him, it's just like, I think when you look at that scene, that's a perfect way to build tension in. It's eerily fun, if I can say that.
Yeah, yes. Oh, no, 100%. It's very fun, but it is like, it does build the tension a little bit there. I think unlike the first movie, where it's kind of like you're slowly bringing this thing to a boil the entire time, it's almost like every sequence is kind of doing that in its own little way. It might not hit as hard like how, you know, it does at the end of the original Strangers, but there is still like a, oh shit, you know? I actually, it's as dumb as it is, and as much of a trailer moment as it was, I really like when is it Pinup Girl that does the little jump scare in the tube or whatever?
Yeah.
I only like it because it gets me every time. There's not too many jump scares I can say that about, and that one, I don't know, every time I'm just like, fuck, dude. God damn it. But Mr. Rick is throwing out a really, really good question. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. Thank you so much for the $5. He says, I have a theory that there's more than one group of strangers. What is your thoughts? Luke, we're going to start with you this time. We're going to do a little, not that way, this way. There we go.
You know, with that, I think it could be possible. Do I think that there are different characters completely from the 2008 to 2018? I don't think so. It'd just be odd to have that same choice in mask. So, you know, I think these are the same killers from that first one. But, you know, hey, we're getting into chapter 1, 2, and 3. It'd be interesting to see if, you know, they kind of establish that element to it of there's more than one stranger. Because I think that could be a possibility. I just don't think it's the case with these two that we do have right now, just because, again, unless we're all in a cult and we all have, hey, you pick Zackhead, Dollface, or Pinup Girl. I think it would be too coincidental to kind of just have the exact same masks.
Yeah, I also have to agree with Luke there. I think that they are the same killers. I think they're just wildly more confident in this one than they are in the first. Because again, I always go back to that line in the first one where she's like, "It'll be easier next time." And this, I think that because like there was a question last week brought up about why they're so much faster and why they're so much more agile in this than they were in the first. It comes down to, after sitting down and watching it, I think it's just experience. I think that we are supposed to believe that this is taking place, again, years after the first, and like, you know, it seems like they've been doing this a while. So it's definitely something that they're like, they can get away with it, and they can definitely have more confidence when it comes down to sitting down with somebody and playing with the car radio before he stabs him to death, you know, which again, I think that's the most I will say tonally consistent kill from the first one, is that kind of twisted humor is. I feel like that's the most Brian Bartino kill in this entire film.
You can tell he wrote it. You know, he definitely has his hands all up in this one. And I actually really like the way that Johannes Roberts shoots his movies, not to get too off topic from this super chat, but like I love like those slow zoom like 70s style shots that you have in like this movie, or like even his Resident Evil flick, which I don't know if you guys have seen, but I'm a weird fan of that movie, even though it's like not that great. I don't know, Welcome to Raccoon City, just it does it for me, man. I really like a lot of this dude's movies.
I have not seen that, but I would love to talk a little bit more about him once we get through the chats, because like I am kind of a defender. I hate to say this because like I feel like he's got more misses than hits for me, but I kind of have a really big soft spot for his 47 Meters Down movies, and he's doing another shark film that's not connected to that, and I'm like, I don't know, the dude just loves shark movies, and I'm like, I'm here for it. He's the only one really still making them to where they're like kind of fun and they have some cool stuff to them.
And it's not just the same old, you know, that's what I appreciate about 47 Meters Down. It might not just, it might be kind of, you know, whatever, but it's like, at least it's something, they're trying something different. They're not doing the same, like, just Jaws style movie again. But
and I prefer Uncaged.
I do too.
I think it's way more fun. I think it's way creepier. It's definitely, in my opinion, of the two, like, the first one, not to turn this into a 47 Meters Down video, but like the first one has that fantastic scene with the flare, where it's like, you know, the sharks, yes, all of the films, the sharks look kind of goofy in some spots, and they do look very CGI, but that's a great reveal. I love it. It's being in the ocean at night. It's nightmare fuel to me. But like the second one, having them in the caves with the blind shark and everything, no matter how improbable that actually is, I'm like, this is fucking cool. I love the tension it builds. I love all of it. Like, I'm here for it. So it's like, he won my heart with that for sure.
I really do like a lot of the projects from him. I don't know. I think he's underrated personally. And in my opinion, Pray at Night, this might be a hot take. This is my favorite film from him personally too. I really like Pray at Night. So
I don't think you're far off. I'd have to say, like, looking at his filmography, I just pulled it up again. I mean, it's this and Uncaged for me, honestly, because like, again, I haven't seen Resident Evil. I actually didn't realize he did Suicide Bid in '99 for VHS.
Oh.
That's pretty cool. But you know, other than that, I gotta say, like, those are my favorites from him. But this one definitely better than any of the 47 Meters Downs. I have to be honest. I'm a shark fan, so
I love me some shark movies too. And to get back on topic, just real quick with this.
I'm leaving because I got to go watch Uncaged. So.
He's gotta
Yeah, I don't know. It's not like a 10 out of 10, but it's so fun. Like it is such a fun movie, dude. Oh
Jake
my god.
And Dylan have both said this is a masterpiece, so now I have to watch Uncaged.
It is.
All right, okay.
You know, Spielberg, Scorsese, get out of the way. It's 47. We had no idea.
Down Uncaged. Yep.
But thoughts on to wrap this up, Mr. Rick. Do I think there's more than one group of strangers? You know, chapter 1 can do anything it fucking wants. I mean, we have no idea until we see it tomorrow. But I really think that here's my thing, right? Here's why I'm on the fence about this. I'm leaning towards no, but there is a lot of weird shit going on in the marketing. We're seeing pictures of multiple strangers, like multiple people dressed up in the masks. That's been a part of the marketing. It's been like pretty consistent in all the marketing. And I'm wondering if this is where they go with chapters 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if I'm going to like that personally, because I don't know how all that works. It almost sounds like we're stepping into some supernatural territory there. If we go down that route to explain all that, I don't know if I would be into that personally, but it's something that I'm kind of weirdly not gonna shoo away. I'm not gonna say I don't think that's impossible. There's been a lot of weird things in the marketing that would say that you're onto something there. So I'm not 100%. I'm not 100%. As of right now, we can't be sure because the last two movies were pretty vague, which I personally like. I think chapters 1, 2, and 3 are gonna kind of mess all that up, but we'll just have to see. Right?
I didn't watch your video because I wanted to stay away. I don't know if you spoiled it or not, or what the marketing was, but I saw your tweet and I saw your stuff about it. I'm like, I have a day. I'm just staying away from it. I don't care. I just like, I don't, if there's anything that could save me, I don't want it to get spoiled in the marketing. So,
Mr. Spoiling stuff.
I'm gonna go on a fucking tangent. Hang on, Mr. Rick. Thank you for the $5. Really appreciate you. I'm gonna say this real quick for everyone out there who is so excited for The Strangers Chapter 1. Avoid the fucking marketing. I'm so mad. Like I'm actually a little pissed because they put something in a new TV spot that's like, this is totally a big scene in the movie, and I know what's gonna happen now. That sucks. So guys, avoid the new teasers and TV spots this week. Oh my god.
TV spots too, dude. The TV spots ruin everything every time. Like they do it with the Marvel movies consistently. Like Civil War got spoiled for me, a big part of it because of a TV spot, and I was like, fuck that.
Dude, that blows, man. That blows. I know it's gonna be a big scene too. Like it's one of those things you see it and you're like, oh shit. And then I was so shocked, and then I was like, oh, but wait. I'm seeing it now though. That's no fun.
You're like, don't you want to see this in the theater though and pay $12?
It's like, well, I've seen it now. It's like, damn it. I don't know. That made me so mad. So, but we got a few more super chats. Thank you guys so much for the support tonight. Really appreciate you all. Luddy Networks throwing $10 in there. Thank you so much. This is the gentleman that sent me a flamethrower, for those who do not know. Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy. He's awesome. He's saying, I made it. I love the fight in the pool. Something about blood thinning in water gets me going. And that's a pretty, I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'll toss it back around again. Thoughts on the pool scene in general, because a lot happens here. I mean, it's not just the attack and kill between our, man in the mask and Luke or whatever. It's also, there's a lot more to it as well. We finally get a stranger death in this sequence. There's a lot to talk about here. Dylan, you want to kick this off a little bit?
I mean, it's definitely, I don't think it hit me as hard because it's, again, a scene that I had seen before when I watched the movie, but it was one of those things where it's like, it has so much going on, and I'm just going to actually say some of the aspects that I feel like don't get talked about a lot is I love the color balance in this. Like, I'm a film nerd, obviously we all are, but like, I love the neon in the background. I said it with the music. I love that, and they brought up the blood thinning in the water. Just that red into that like ice blue of that pool is just so aesthetic, and I love everything about it. Like, as a slasher fan, it's like, it's nice to see. It reminds me a lot of the blood in you just mentioned in the It Follows. Right at the end in the pool there. It's like, I think like there's something about that. Maybe it's my love of, shark films and creature features in the water, but like seeing blood in water when it's done really well, it just adds this extra element of just like, this is creative, this is cool. And all around, I mean, there's a reason why this scene is the standout for so many people, and why if anybody brings up Pray at Night, it's always going to be the pool scene. You kill a stranger, you have an epic fight in the water. I mean, it's intense. It's got a great soundtrack. It's really fun.
Yeah, I think when you look at that scene, I think the reason it's talked about so much is you could tell that there was a lot of love and just fun put into that scene. If you want to see something that's going to epitomize the tone of this film, just from an aesthetic perspective, I think, you're going to point everyone to that pool scene. And I remember watching this when on my initial run, and again, the film wasn't necessarily holding my attention, but when Pinup Girl gets killed and, coming off that 2008 version where they all walked away, I was like, I had to do a double take, and I know that scene had caught me. I actually sat down and paid attention to it, because it's just one of those, you're understanding the gravity of the situation, I think, of where everything's on the table. And then, we don't even get a moment to breathe there when our sackhead guy comes on in with his the axe, and we get that interplay between him and Luke. And I love just how that is built up. And when they get in the pool, and Dylan mentioned the water, when you have those scenes of just the water's engulfing both those characters and they're fighting in between, and then when you have the red, it just all works. And with the music, the needle drop, everything, it just is the epitome of fun and what this film wanted to capture and show its audience.
100%, dude. I couldn't agree more. And another thing too is, as gorgeous as this scene looks, I think it's the sound design that just is fucking
it's
like
super well done.
10 out of 10 with this scene. As we're going in and out of the water, like the audio changes. It sounds like we're underwater, then we're not. If it's the axe dragging against the concrete, oh god, I love this scene so much. There's a reason it's like the most iconic from the whole film for sure. So Luddy, thank you so much for the $10, man. I really appreciate it. I love this scene to death too, man. I feel you big time, dude. Water and fire, it's a weird combination. And Evan from Rockland Graves is with us too. What's up, man? Yo.
I gotta say, Evan did a great video just like he did with the strangers on this, but he brought something up that I immediately had to text him about, because I literally watched this movie and then watched his video, and like he brought up a point that opening music is so much like The Fog. It's literally like the keystrokes and everything. If you go back and watch it, it is essentially like The Fog intro music, and it's so well done. And I mean, I think we'll get to it, but like there's a ton of other like great horror references in this. Like he really Johannes Roberts like filled this thing with stuff. Like I know there's one in particular that I teased to Luke that I'm wondering if he picked up on it towards the end of the film, involving some fire. Did you you know what I'm referencing there?
Wait, what did you reference to me?
Christine.
Oh,
the flame. Okay, yeah, I was totally Christine.
Oh, 100%. And that's where it's like, I think that scene had caught me when we have the flaming truck going down. It's ideal. The concept is like, I don't know about that, but we really get into that kind of slasher vibe of the 80s, I think. But that scene again, I had gotten instant Christine vibes, and I think that's kind of why I get into the John Carpenter aspect of this, where it's like, with the aesthetic, and then just with the pacing of this, and then some of those scenes, it feels like this could be right out of a John Carpenter film.
I mean, all it's missing is the blue collar characters, and even then, there's an argument for it, right? Like, I mean, this is so John Carpenter, it hurts, and I think that's why I especially am very drawn to this sequel. Like, I totally get if you saw this like when it came out in 2018, and you were like, I just wasn't crazy about that. It wasn't the same as the original. But I think what I loved so much about it was it wasn't at all what I was expecting, and it almost felt like if John Carpenter did a sequel to to the Strangers, which is like, that would be so cool. Like, I'm so down for this. It's a lot of fun.
I'd love to see his take on that. Yeah, actually.
Oh yeah,
there'd be a radio DJ in it for sure.
Gotta love that, man. And real quickly, guys, I do want to take a sidebar just to talk about Evan from Rockland Graves. This dude's content fucking rocks. Go subscribe to this guy. Dude's like killing it, going up the ranks in the horror community right now, and he deserves it. I absolutely love some of the videos he's putting out. Little video essays talking about like horror movies here and there, and he just covered The Strangers. So go subscribe to his page, check him out. Thank you so much for the super chat, man. And I love the content that you're making right now, man. It's excellent stuff.
Evan's a little pretentious, but he's got he's got some room. He's got a fancy wardrobe with those sweaters, so he's doing it over there. He's got a lot of great content.
I know we got the sweater duo whenever we do our lives with these two. Like, they'll both be wearing these nice sweaters and button ups and all that stuff, and then like Alex and I just pop on with t-shirts, just like with random graphic tees, just like just looking like bums.
Hey, you wear it well.
Yin and yang. You got to balance it out, man. I totally understand. I love it though, man. Thank you so much for the support. Appreciate the heck out of you. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, though, dude. But getting back on track with a little praying at night, or it's not the religious film, just pray at night. But with some of the characters in this movie, we were talking, this is kind of my biggest criticism about the film, but I'm curious what you guys have to say about some of our very few characters in this film, even though it is more than the previous entry, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I think like it's definitely intriguing. I think like all in all, I kind of prefer just the fun nature of it with this one. You kind of need that when you're doing more of a fun slasher treatment to it. So I'm okay with it. Again, the first film's just such an intimate kind of terror that it makes sense to have very few kills, and especially with one of them being not even from the strangers. So it's like he killed his own brother. It's kind of like, man, that's it makes this one, I guess, a little bit more fun. As weird as that sounds, the more people that die, the more like, okay, this is fun slasher. This is not oh god, these people are going to get stabbed to death very slowly in their chairs slasher.
Well, my dear Jake, I was peering at my phone when you had asked the question, so you're going to have to repeat that for me.
Dude, you're all good, man. What are your thoughts on the characters in Prey at Night, like versus the original?
You know, obviously we have a little more of an expanded family here. I think, you know, I like the brother-sister duo. I don't have a problem with mom and dad. Sometimes I think it feels... although they're on screen for only a little bit of time, at the beginning they do like a little handshake, and I was like, I don't know. I think we're trying to establish a little too camaraderie there for me. It didn't really hit, but I like when one of the big things for me, it's like when the kids go off, you know, mom and dad, you can see that they're still in a relationship, where it's like, you know, with the original Strangers, we're kind of dealing with a different end of the spectrum, but, you know, mom and dad are really looking for that alone time there, which I really did enjoy. And then I think the brother and sister duo is really what sells me more here, just because they feel authentic, you know. They're kind of at odds, but then you can kind of see that they do have a love for each other, especially when they go out, when Kinsey leaves and then Luke does follow her, and they kind of, you know, they're going through the trailer park. I think that's kind of the scene that sells it for me, because to be honest, when I turned it on, I wasn't really feeling the characters, but as soon as we get there, I'm like, okay, now I'm all in. And I think, you know, that really gets me behind each one. And then I like the pairing where we kind of mom and daughter go together, father son go together. Everyone kind of gets their own screen time, where it's like, you know, with the original, we're stuck in one location, we're with two characters primarily, and I like the dynamic that they have there, but it's, you know, it's a little depressing. But, you know, this one, I think it really does feel like an actual real family.
Yes, I do agree there. I think the performances are very good from everybody, like pretty much across the board. We have some like horror legends. If it's Martin Henderson, who you might remember from like X, The Ring. What else is he in? He's in like a bunch of weird shit. It's like small characters, and it's just a name that a lot of people don't know, unfortunately. But he's in a bunch of stuff. Christina Hendricks, of course, is huge, and Bailey Madison and Lewis Pullman. I'm like, I know these names, I swear I do. But so you have some big actors, you have some not as known actresses and actors playing the kids. But I think overall, my biggest thing about it is I just feel like I've seen this dynamic in slashers before. You know, it doesn't feel like anything really fresh, which I think I clinged onto the characters in the original film maybe even more, because it's like they're already in this like pretty tough, maybe even awkward situation that kind of that makes you want to root for them even more. And then like this awful thing happens to them and you're like, fuck, oh my god, it's the worst day of both of their lives, like pretty much ever. With this one, it's a little like kind of what you were saying, Luke, where it's like you're forcing this camaraderie a little bit, like a little too much early on. And I was kind of just like, okay, you know, we get it, let's get to the point. I did like the queef joke though. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I thought that was good. And I gotta say, like, the beyond it just being like a lot more of like a body count for the fun slasher nature, like if you're getting into like the characters specifically, I really found myself loving the brother-sister relationship between Kinsley and Luke here. It felt very natural. They're constantly giving each other shit. They're constantly like, you know, kind of just throwing each other under the bus and stuff like that. I thought that was super sweet. But really the scene that I think sold me of all the dynamics was actually between Christina Hendricks and Bailey, because like they when they're smoking the cigarette out front and she's like, oh, you're not even gonna hide it, it's like it felt like the most angsty real life teenage thing like ever, where it's just like, all right, fine, like if we're sending you off to boarding school, I'm gonna let this one happen even though it's going against all my parental instincts, and I'm just gonna hear you out for a second. And it's like the whole movie I'm sitting there like, just fix it, just you guys can come back from this, you can, I promise. And then everybody dies, so it's like, fuck. All right. So well, at least the parents die, so it's tough,
you know. And I don't think the parents come off necessarily as dismissive parents, you know. Sometimes where it's like, you know, you have that hard line of don't smoke that cigarette, or, you know, shape up, you know, where we have dad sitting next to Kinsey and, you know, trying to actually talk to her even though it doesn't work out. But, you know, it's kind of you know, Dylan uses the phrase horror comfort food, and I think, you know, when you look at this, the Pray at Night is an ode to those 80s slashers. And I don't think they were necessarily trying to reinvent the wheel or anything here. It was just kind of, this is what everyone's familiar with. This is what we loved about that 80s dynamic, and this is just what we're going to give you. It doesn't try to be anything that it's not there. And I think, I think we do see those dynamics a lot, but, other than some moments being forced, I think overall it was fairly well done. And it's just not, a dynamic that is, completely original, which I'm fine with because, going into this, I'm looking at it more from the lens of having fun rather than, this epic stand up to the 2008 version.
And I think you also have a good point about it being like more 80s this time around versus 70s. Like I think about, once again, that Texas Chainsaw Massacre comparison. Look at our characters in that film versus like, I'm trying to think like maybe a later Friday the 13th film. A lot of the slashers in the 80s put our characters in very fun situations, and then this awful thing happens. If it's like going on vacation, we're at a summer camp. This is fun. This is going to be a good time. We're going to bone and eat food and get high, whatever. Then with like more 70s horror movies, you almost get like a social commentary sometimes. You get like these characters who are in a bad situation, something that's a little more like equivalent to real life like at the time. And then this awful thing happens that maybe is a metaphor for what's going on, and that's cool. I like that about The Strangers versus Pray at Night. It's you can see the different time periods that either are influenced by, and I think that's fun. So I guess with that, because I don't want to wrap up the stream quite yet, but I do want to ask you guys just overall thoughts on this before we kind of go into some more general questions. I saw some pretty fucking cool comments that I wanted to get to in the chat. So Dylan, just to kind of like wrap this up, overall, what are your thoughts on The Strangers Pray at Night?
Luke took the words right out of my mouth. This is one of those ones where I like to make that comparison of just like horror comfort food. I said that about Thanksgiving recently. That's one of those ones where it's like it is referencing a lot of things, but it gets so much right. It's paying ode to so many different kinds of slashers, and this does the same thing. I think that on a scale, I probably prefer Thanksgiving over this just a bit. But it's one of those things where it's like, I can throw that on and I can now throw this on whenever I feel like. It's something that like, man, I had a crappy day. I'm just looking for something short and sweet to throw on with some pretty cool kills. I'm going to do that with Strangers Pray at Night now. I'll find a reason to put it on. And it's one of those things, I think that this is probably one of the few slashers since Thanksgiving that I've seen where I've just had a smile on my face. I'm just sitting there like, yeah, it's a little twisted, it's a little dark, but as horror fans go, you just have those movies where it's like, yeah, this just feels good. This just feels like I can sit down and I don't have to take it too seriously. I don't have to over comprehend or think about it. I'm just sitting here to enjoy the moment, and then that's that.
Yeah, for me, since last stream, I'm a completely changed man. I have repented for my sins. This
Come
one,
to Jesus moment.
This one, like I said, I watched it twice because I had to confirm on that second watch that I liked it as much as I did revisiting this. And, it wasn't something where I was like, do I have to turn this on again? I was eager to actually turn this on and give it another watch because there's a handful of great scenes in here. And it's just funly paced. There's a lot of fun setup here, and when the kills happen, they really make them work. So this one is, I'm gonna be picking up the Blu-ray. I want this in my collection so that I can watch it anytime and I don't have to subscribe to HBO Max all the time to check it out. But this one is an instant purchase for me. So this one I will be recommending. Now whenever anyone brings up Pray at Night, it won't be met with an eye roll for me now, to be honest. So I'm excited. I won't be rewatching this one in the next couple weeks since I did watch it twice. But this one, certainly during the month of October, I will be dusting off Pray at Night to watch it again.
And yeah, I'm so with you guys. Like this movie's a blast. It is fun from start to finish. It's very quick too. It's got a quick runtime and a fast pace. And I love movies like that. I think they're a lot of fun. Is it as scary as the first one? Maybe not, but I think it has its own unique flavor of horror to it that is very fun and that I can put on and just have a good time with in the background. A little more passive, like you guys were saying. If I want to be terrified though, I'm putting on that first one. Still my favorite. Chapter 1 might change that this weekend, although I'm not hearing the most positive reviews reviews so far, which makes Jake very scared. What are your guys' thoughts now? Because I believe we're all of us in this room right now are seeing it tomorrow. So in 24 hours, I was going to say 48 hours. That's not right. Expectations right now, pretty much the last time we're going to be online talking about it before we see the movie. What are your thoughts with chapter 1 before we get into some comments from the audience?
I gotta say, it's even a little. I'm honestly a little bit more torn on it than I was last week, because last week I drew a pretty hard line in the sand of saying I don't think it's ever going to come close to the serious rawness that the first one was able to hit, just from the trailers that I've seen. But like, now that I've kind of seen the other side of the coin, and I've seen like really taken in and given this like really fun, awesome, short and sweet comfort food kind of movie, thinking about that trailer, man, I don't know. This just feels very bland. I don't think that this kind of reboot, kind of retread that they're kind of pitching us on, where it's almost a redo of the first movie, it irritates me even more. Just because it's like, dude, why are we doing this when we could literally take the Prey at Night approach and just bring them back, do a 3-film arc of like, hey, we're doing this. It could take place between, Strangers 1 and Prey at Night. And we could literally see them get better and all that stuff and pick up new tricks and tools. It's just, I'm frustrated. I'm still excited, though. I'm not going to lie. I love going to the theater to see a slasher. So it's like, I'm still going to hold out a little bit of hope. But yeah, I don't know, man. Especially now that you're saying that the early reviews were rough, and also that they're spoiling things in the marketing. It's never a good sign when they're giving away when they're giving the bag away before you even get to the theater.
Yeah, for me, I'm really nervous. Looking at last week where I was like, man, Prey at Night wasn't good, and 2008's the masterpiece. In my opinion, 2008 is perfect, tension filled, slower pace. It really builds, and then now you have Prey at Night, and I've come around to that one, and it's a faster pace. It's an ode to the 80s. It's fun kills. It's a fun aesthetic. You have the best of both worlds right now in the established Strangers franchise, and I don't know if it's Rennie Harlin's chapter 1 looks a little faster paced, maybe. I don't know if you're going to get better than Prey at Night. I mean, there's wiggle room there, but, I certainly don't have that expectation anymore. So, for me, 2008, perfect film. I absolutely adore it. This one, so much fun. I would have loved to have seen something else in this universe here, this established universe, to do something. Hey, let's make them zombies and raise them from the dead. And see what we get from that aspect of it. But no, so this one,
supernatural. There
go. We go. It'll be the next Evil Dead. But for this one here, I just don't know what they're gonna do. I'm scared, to be honest. Like, I think going in, better or worse, we're going to see a horror movie at the theater. So that's a positive, but it depends on the quality of that film. And I gotta say, especially after watching Prey at Night and how well and quality this film is, I'm really hesitant on this chapter 1 and this restart of all 3 chapters here. So we'll see, but I am very hesitant.
Yeah, I'm worried at the moment because of the marketing, which was such a blast in the face. Open up my phone, the first thing I see is a big spoiler for this like big movie this month. So I was not super thrilled about that. I have a negative connotation already with that. I'm seeing trusted critics that I personally really like and typically tend to agree with say some not so good things about this. Things that I'm literally have said word for word in videos that they're saying this movie is, which is getting me so scared. I guess if there is a silver lining to all of this, even though I have my concerns, even though I'm like have things about this movie where I'm like, I'm probably not going to be crazy about it. I will say, I do feel like this is supposed to be that familiar first entry to bring the franchise fans back on board. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we're going to do something kind of familiar, probably not executed as well to get everybody back on board, and then we're going to start getting into the weird shit as we get into chapters 2 and 3. So it's almost like a necessary evil is how I'm looking at this. At least I hope. At least I hope that's what this ends up being, is just something familiar for the fans, like almost like a retread just to get everybody back on board, and then chapters 2 and 3 is something fresh, something we haven't seen yet, which I'm really hoping for. But maybe that's me being too optimistic.
and I gotta say, that was my biggest fear when this all first got announced. But again, looking at it now, I sat in my car. Someone that is always tagging us on Twitter, and stuff like that. Brandon, the movie dude, he's super cool. He posted just, a random conversation piece. He was just like, hey, what are your most anticipated for the later half of 2024? And I saw Strangers Chapter 2 on there, and I'm like, yeah, we really only have to wait a couple months. So if this is a retread, again, if they just add a couple of things to kind of lay the breadcrumbs, I can be a little bit kinder to it. It'll be an honest review, but it'll be one of those things where I'm really, just like you said, hoping for the weird shit. Like, they really need to step it up in chapters 2 and 3. So let's get everybody on board again, I guess, who didn't want to rewatch the old ones, and let's have it go. Let's get the kids in the theater. All right, let's do it. Butts and seats.
Luke, thoughts on that?
It's like, I understand trying to familiarize your audience with, maybe they haven't seen the 2008 version, but you have to give an audience, hey, they're paying money, they want to come in, they want to see something. So if you're going to take the 2008 version and kind of go beat by beat and maybe add slight flair, I think, you're kind of robbing your audience there. And when, hey, I could just take out my Blu-ray 2008 and pop that in and get more attention maybe out of that film than it is paying money to go sit down at the theater and watch it. I understand trying to familiarize your audience, but I think Dylan brought it up last week, or maybe it was in our review of the original Strangers, where it's like, if those beats were like the first 30 minutes and then we kind of went for an original take that last hour, I could get on board with that. But if this is going to be a complete retread for an hour and a half, I will honestly feel robbed walking out of the theater, no matter if we have to familiarize your audience or not. Hey, I've watched 2008. I have a love for it. Pray at Night's great. You don't have to familiarize me for anything. And I think you also have to take in that aspect of, hey, yeah, 2008 was, 16 years ago? But, with the way media is now, hey, there's streaming services. It's not something where you have to really track down a Blu-ray or a DVD of something. Hey, I can go turn on HBO Max and watch both established Strangers movies. So
they've been plastering it all over HBO Max too. Whenever you open that app, it's Strangers, Prey, and Night, and Strangers. And it's everywhere. And
for me, it's going to be hard. I think there is going to be a group of people that aren't familiar with that 2008 version, but I think it's going to be a smaller group than a lot of people think, because it is so accessible now. So, I hope it's not beat for beat. I can forgive the first 30 minutes being that and giving us something original last hour, but I can't sit through an hour and a half of the same thing that I saw in 2008.
Can I also say that, this was the same argument people had for 2018 Halloween when it came out, where it's like, yeah, it has to kind of be a retread. It has to do this to bring new people on board. The net that, the Halloween franchise casts is not nearly as small as the net that the Strangers casts. You know what I mean? It's an established film. It's got a pretty good sequel that took a while for people to turn on and say, hey, this is good. But it's one of those things where it's like, you still have kind of that core Strangers audience that's going to be there day one to see it. So it's like, I don't know why they wouldn't first lean into, let's satisfy this and then start bringing a wider berth in. That's just my 2 cents into it.
No, I do agree with you, and I always think it's weird when it's like they feel the need to do that, because it's like, why, a recreation of something from the past is just never going to be better than something something that you're doing the exact same thing in a brand new movie. There are shot for shot remakes of movies that are jokes, like Psycho 1998 or whatever. It's a joke. It's like, are you kidding me? Why would you do a shot for shot remake? Are you so afraid to just put your own take on the same idea? That's crazy to me. I will say though, again, more silver linings. I'm an eternal optimist. It's horrible. It's horrible up in here. Let me tell you. No, but silver lining to all of this, I think, is that even if this movie is almost beat for beat similar story as the 2008 film, I do think it is going to set up little breadcrumbs in the background for what's to come next. How can it not? You know what I mean? How can it possibly not?
Hope, right?
You gotta hope, man. Madeline Pesh is said to be in all three of these, rumor has it. So my guess is they're gonna set up something with her character as to why the Strangers keep coming after her. Maybe she's interesting enough to really lead 3 whole films. I don't know, man. I don't know what they're gonna set up here, but I'm just hoping it's that element to this film that is so strong. If the rest of it is just something we've already seen before. That's if there's any last thing I'm just really hoping for in Strangers Chapter 1 at this point, I just hope those extra breadcrumbs are something that are really tasty.
And I do got to say, before we go into the chats here, I was trying to find a spot to fix this in, and then I totally forgot about it till you just mentioned that. But apparently, for Prey at Night, at one time they were supposed to bring back Liv Tyler to get murdered at the beginning of the film, a la Friday the 13th Part 2. So like she was supposed to get killed, and then the film would kick off. So I'm like, you know, saying that, you know, Madeline Pesh, as you said, is coming back for all three of these. I know they kind of said this is all supposed to be like one long movie that they're splitting up. You know, I think it's interesting that if that's the case, that we are going to have a through line character, and they're not just going to be murdering everybody or getting killed and having to pick up new people as they go along. One thing that's just stream of consciousness coming off my head is like, what if by the end of this trilogy we have a totally different set of strangers? What if by the end of this trilogy we have different masks, different people, maybe more, maybe less? Like, I don't know. This could be pretty wild, pretty weird. So I'm hoping for something different. That's all this is saying.
Yeah,
I want to get weird.
Yeah, you know, for me, like I think when we had initially brought it up in our trailer reaction, we did our most anticipated of the year. I had mentioned when we talked Strangers that, you know, I was hoping maybe this would be like a relay race. And yes, we have these returning characters that are going to be cast in all three films, but you know, maybe those are flashbacks where it's like we kill off so many characters as we go throughout this night. Like looking at Prey at Night would have been interesting if that was a filled area with our trailers, and it was just the strangers going through. If you had that in a 3-film arc and it's just them going through, killing people, them getting killed, and it's just a bunch of havoc. So, you know, I could see this one being, you know, especially if we do those familiar beats that first half hour and then everyone's killed and then we're kind of just moving on from there, and it kind of jarring the audience. I don't know if they go that route, but you know, at least it brings some sort of intrigue for that next hour and those next 2 films to say, hey, everything's on the table, no one's safe. What is the ending of chapter 3 going to look like, and who are our characters going to be? Because everyone we just saw for the first half hour is dead.
And that could be really gut wrenching. You know, that could be something special and something we haven't seen before. And I'm so down for that, man. But just give it to me. Please don't give me the same movie like 1, 2, 3. You know what I mean? It's just another home invasion for chapter 2. I'll be like, dude, come on, dog. Like,
she just gets to another house, and it's like, okay, yeah, now we move into this house. It's like, okay, whatever.
This one's got 2 floors.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Okay, all right. Not an Airbnb this time, I guess. Like I'm like
not a ranch style home. Nope, we're moving up in the world, guys.
No trailer parks this time, buddy. You know, like I don't know. I do want to say hi to some of my members out there. We got Just Jess. What's up? What's up? Howdy hey. Welcome in. Appreciate you. And Erica, what's up? Welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out, talking strangers with us. Gotta love it. I do want to say Brobotic is asking, what is our favorite slasher and final girl? And Luke, I'll throw that to you first.
My favorite slasher and final girl. I'm not going to be original if we're going to go with that. I mean, Michael Myers is my favorite, and Laurie, you can't beat her. She is the finer girl. So, you know, it's hard. If we're going to go just, you know, a handful, like, I think Ripley's great just because she's such a badass, and, you know, she certainly does not feel like a finer girl. She seems like that ass kicker that, you know, just goes through. So, but, you know, I'm always going to gravitate toward Michael and Laurie. So, yeah, I'm not original in that aspect at all.
That's okay. It's a good take, man.
I've got a little bit of an original one, I guess. I don't hear this tossed around, but I have been on record saying this. So, but I think that Amy Steele from as Jenny from Friday the 13th Part 2, I like her a lot. I've always thought that she was a neat character, a neat foil to that, because she felt like the most real of all those characters throughout the Friday the 13th franchise. Until we get to like Tommy Jarvis in Part 6, she feels like the most realistic, like, human character who's not just here to die. And I mean, slasher, it's, again, I'm gonna say it's Jason. He's my favorite. Absolutely love the hockey mask. Undead Jason Part 6. Let's go. But like, if you want me to kind of go a little bit off the beaten path, a movie that I've had a hankering to watch recently, and I don't know her name, so I'll have to do some research, but the girl from You're Next. I've been really wanting to watch You're Next again because of all the stranger stuff we've been talking about home invasion. But I remember her being a real badass, and I really want to get on that. I'll try to find her name, but
it's
yeah,
like Aaron.
That's my picks.
Aaron,
Aaron, yes, yeah. Aaron. Mm-hmm. You are correct.
I did a whole video on Your Next like a couple years ago, and I'm still, it's in there somewhere. I just got to fish for it. But
West is in that movie too. He's an actor. Isn't that wild? Like, dude, that's crazy.
He gets in that movie, like he dies almost immediately when he's on screen, but he makes fun of Cleveland. Like that's his one thing in that movie, and I'm like, I fucking love, like 10 out of 10. Love that. But favorite slasher, Final Girl. This might be a hot take, but Art the Clown is my favorite slasher. I just love that silly little guy. He can do no wrong. I think he's innocent, honestly. I think we should just let him go.
He's been framed.
Yeah, he's been framed. We need a presidential pardon for my boy here. But favorite Final Girl, that's so tough. There's so many good ones. You said Ripley, we've said Lori, we've said, I mean, Amy Steele, great choice too, man. Holy shit. I might have to go with Sidney Prescott. I'm going to be honest. I think she's one of the best. She's got a really good arc. I mean, the whole the first 3 Scream movies at least focuses on her story, so I think that's pretty cool.
If we're looking at like a Mount Rushmore, she's one of them, like up there with Lori, absolutely. And then, you probably, shoot, who else would you throw up on that list? Like up there, Ripley, I'd probably say, even though it's like, Nancy. I know some people don't. Nancy, yeah, absolutely. Nancy'd be up there. Yeah, it's like, those are just some of the biggest icons, but Sydney has definitely earned that status, earned that keep, like so far in advance now. Like everybody's so excited, even after all the stuff that's been going on with Scream 7, just to see Sidney Prescott back in the starring role. It's like, yeah, like I'm down for that. Put her in the movie. I'm cool. Nev Campbell, that's great. That's like an icon in and of themselves.
Right. I can't argue with that, man. I mean, just having her back, that's so exciting. And especially not having her in 6, it was like, man, that sucked. And now to see her come back for this, I think that's going to be really exciting. We do have a super chat that I want to get to real quick. Thank you so much. Oh my God, Luddy, thank you for the 10. Appreciate you, man. Cool idea having a lot of people getting attacked, but a big part of the suspense is being utterly alone with no form of reliable communication. Not a copy, but stick with what works with a new twist. Oh, okay. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up the stream with this, but just throw that around one more time. Dylan, we'll go to you this time. Thoughts on that?
I agree. I just think like Pray at Night does kind of show that you can kind of have some more fun with it. You can be a little bit more out there. Because, yeah, I mean, they are kind of secluded. And who's to say that it looks like they're at some Airbnb kind of like around like a national park kind of looking place, or like at least a small town, kind of a more rural area. So it's like, yeah, you could have houses like, a good, half mile between each other. You know what I mean? Like it could be a bit of a hike just to get to the other house. And you could still have kind of that, quick pace suspense of like, hey, there's at least a few other people around here who could intervene. I don't know. I think like, if anything, that's going to make me more excited. I know that kind of goes down the route of a more traditional slasher, but for the Strangers franchise, especially once we get into chapters 2 and 3, I would like to see them kind of be put in a situation where they're not in control, where they're not like just stalking and there's not very many people. I want to see the Strangers have to, just like in Pray at Night, kind of have to, work for their food in this one, in a sense. They actually get the smack put down on them. A couple of them die in this one. So it's like, I'd love to see that kind of get re-brought up.
And, I think it just really depends on the story that they want to tell here. I mean, we're talking Strangers, and you look at 2008 versus Pray at Night, and again, they're different in terms of, but they both work. So it really just kind of depends on what they want to do. I think Rennie Harlan's, the trailer that we saw looked a little more in your face for me. So I don't know if they're going to go that route. I don't know if he's interested in building a ton of suspense or really just kind of going all out there and full board to be like, hey, we're just killing people. So, I think there are different ways to build suspense, but I don't know if he's going to go that route. I think, there's a long story to tell here. The best we can hope for is something unique, which, the trailer didn't give us much hope there, but I'm hoping again that's going to be just a quick little rest stop, and then we're going to be back on the road to something different. But from my take, this looks more so like we want to just go all out and go crazy with it, and we're running through the woods and we're kind of going that slasher route with it. So I wasn't getting that more so unique take. I think they're going to go a traditional route, at least from what we've seen. So I don't really know necessarily how much suspense is going to be actually brought into this thing, rather than just kind of we're going to go with gore and the kills.
Yeah, and I look at the Brian Bertino film, and it is a very specific movie to Brian Bertino. I don't know if you guys have seen some of his other stuff, but it's very, like, it's got that same flavor. It's got that really, like, dark edge to it, and it's usually, like, doesn't end very well for our main characters. My favorite film besides The Strangers from him is The Dark and the Wicked. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but...
Evan has literally been like, he's borderline pressuring us into watching that here soon. We want to, for sure, but it's like he has done nothing but praise that film since we all became friends. So it's one of those things where it's like I'm gonna have to sit down and check it out. But I'm a much bigger Brian Bertino fanboy now after really studying The Strangers and going through it here. I know one film that I'm really eager to revisit that I feel like I didn't give a fair shake, again, because I think expecting a little bit more of a traditional film, was The Monster. Because it's like it's a creature feature, but they obviously have a little bit more something to it, a little bit more of that Brian Bertino darkness to it. And I was thinking more of like a fun monster movie when I first sat down to watch it. But like, yeah, I'm really eager to check out Dark and the Wicked.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that one out as well. Is that on Shudder? Is that a Shudder?
I think so. I believe so. Yeah.
It's one that I've heard tossed around a few times, but then as we talk more and more with Evan, he's always championing that film. So it's something we're honestly gonna have to get to. Brian Bertino wasn't someone that was on my radar. I was familiar with The Strangers, but not necessarily something that I was seeking out his work. And I know the story here for Pray at Night's by him as well. So I'm curious to see what else he's going to bring. So it's a big blank spot for me. But, I definitely want to tackle and dive down that rabbit hole and just see what he has presented. Because, again, I've never heard anything bad about Dark and the Wicked. So I'm really intrigued about that one.
If there's any like point I could make about this super chat in particular too, I think that Brian Bertino just has a very specific flavor that I think a lot of us don't realize is so unique to him. Because you watch his other stuff and you're like, oh, this, like Dark and the Wicked, another like just a great example of giving you that same like hopeless tone that The Strangers has. But I would say even hits on that harder. It's weird. Dark and the Wicked I think is not as good of a story as the original Strangers. Like I love the simplicity of that original 2008 film, but that feeling, like that hopeless dread that you have watching The Strangers, I would say is even more intense in The Dark and the Wicked, which is something that film does that makes it so significant and so worth your time. Like you guys gotta check it out.
I love feeling hopeless.
And he does have a new movie coming out next summer in 2025 called Vicious. Which has Dakota Fanning starring in it, and it does sound pretty intense. It looks like it's going to be an all-female cast too, so I'm really curious to see what that one is. Again, going horror, going thriller, but yeah, the fact that we've kind of re-sparked our interest in Brian Bertino here, and now have a new Brian Bertino movie just on the horizon. It's a pretty exciting time. I'm looking forward to it.
Hell yeah. I hope whatever they do here, it's just whatever Rennie Harlin's vision is and not just copy and paste trying to recreate Brian Bertino. You can't. He's very unique in his style, even though I feel like some people don't realize that.
It's so hard too, because like he's a writer director on that first film. He sold the script as a writer just to say, hey, it is something I'd like to do, but like I need to make some money and I need to sell this. And they literally came back to him and said, hey, we just can't find anybody who seems to be a good fit for your material. Can you do this? And there's so much passion in there. Like you watch that first film, it's like, yeah, this dude literally had these shots in his mind as he was like making it. It's one of those like few horror films that uses the shaky cam handheld, like to the extent of what they were doing in the 2000s, that like I actually think looks good. I actually think like it's really, really well done. It doesn't look jarring. It doesn't give me a headache. It's like, it's really, really well done.
Yeah, in looking at anytime we cover a film, I always love when it's a writer-director, because you get that particular vision and in how to build that suspense where Dylan said you can really see that passion. I think it doesn't always turn out, knock out of the park. But more often than not, having that singular vision to say, no, this is what's in my head and this is how I need to present it through the lens. I think, especially when you're dealing with something that's so suspense heavy, I think you kind of need that one singular voice to be like, this is how we're going to do it and this is how it's playing out. So, Dark and the Wicked, he wrote and directed that, right? Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So, with that type of stuff, he definitely has a handle on that suspense. So I'm excited to see that one just because when he has that voice, at least it turned out well with the 2008 version of Strangers, that, he just has that handle on it. So those are the things that I think sometimes people can't encapsulate that suspense or that tension, but he definitely has his finger on the pulse and knows how to do it. So I'm excited to see what else he's going to be presenting here. I have to go back and watch his filmography now and see, because it looks like he's written a handful of things that I just checked. So I'm excited. He's been a big blank spot for me, but hey, we're gonna uncover it.
He's gonna make it happen.
He has his hits and misses. I will say that. There's one film that I won't say here that I'm just not a very big fan of. I'll tell you guys off air. But I hate being negative. I hate being such a negative Nancy. These are movies. They're fun, and people put a lot of passion into them. So for some douchebag on the internet to just say I don't like that, it just makes me feel, I don't know, it makes me feel sad. But but we're critics, right? That's what we do here. One last super chat, if you gentlemen will bear with me real quick here. Antidus, thank you for the $20. Holy fuck, love the Chucky profile picture. Saying, hello, what Strangers movie do you guys like more? For him, it's Strangers 2008. Do you guys think the music in the first Strangers movie is creepy? Because it always creeped me out. Music and preferred Stranger film thus far. Dylan, I'll start with you, my friend.
It's, it might be a recency thing. It also might just be... No, I'm going to say it's 2008. I almost said Pray at Night just because of how much fun that movie was. But 2008 is just a really well-done film. We've been singing its praises the whole time. Music-wise, I got to say, as much as I love the needle drops in Pray at Night, I love the creativity of the music in the first one, especially with the record skipping when she bumps into that. I love when in-world stuff affects that. And also the song when Glenn Howard's walking around and it's that kind of country folky kind of song. And it's just I love all that stuff. And yeah, the music is really subtle in the first in a lot of sequences, but it does a really good job of building that tension. I'm not the music expert. I would defer to our buddy Evan on that, but I gotta say I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, score is something where I always pay attention more so on my second viewing, just because I'm taking in the story and the visuals that first time around. And my preference always gonna be 2008. I'm gonna champion that one. All the time. So Pray at Night's great, better than I even thought it could be. A lot of fun, but my heart's with the 2008 version. And like Dylan said, the needle drops are great in Pray at Night, but the songs and the score in the 2008 Strangers is something where, I go back to what Dylan had talked about with that the record repeating, where it's you don't know how unsettling that is until you watch it a few times and you're just unsettled by something and you're not exactly sure what, and then you put your finger on it, you're like, it's the music, So I think that subtlety with the Strangers in 2008 is its charm and really adds to that looming dread of what is happening. Whereas, I think you look at Pray at Night and it's it's just fun. It's disposable. It adds to the aesthetic, the aura of what's happening. But that 2008 really makes that film. It builds that tension. There's a method to the madness there. It's not just fun. It's really just trying to unsettle everybody.
Yeah, and it's really, this is a tough question because I think both movies utilize music really well for totally different reasons. I think we're building tension with the juxtaposition in Pray at Night. We're having this 80s pop song, it's fun, but this awful thing is happening on screen. That builds tension in a very unique way. I like that about Pray at Night. But I think I got to go with you guys. I think the original film I like slightly more with its use of music because it feels more fitting to who the strangers are. These are characters who are dressed in older clothes or flannels, wearing just costume shop masks, driving a truck around. It gives me the vibe that they're from the deep south or something like that, and we're playing country music in the background, and it's old-timey country music. It's got a creepiness to it. So I think that fits more with these characters versus Pray at Night. It's almost a little jarring seeing those slashers against the 80s slasher music. But again, I think that film is going more for the juxtaposition, which I think it does. It does really well. Where the first one, like you said, is more about building tension. The record skipping and doing the loop over and over again during that one sequence. That's terrifying. I love it. Mm-hmm. Score though, I think I got to go with Pray at Night. Like like we were talking about it earlier, the fog sounding like do 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 do, all that shit. I love, like I cream my pants over that shit. I love it.
It's so catchy, and yeah, it does. It really hits on those nostalgia pieces, and that's why it is kind of tough. It's kind of tough to really pick a movie and, I mean, honestly, a score. But like, yeah, I think like they're both just so different. We've been saying it the whole stream, but like they are so different, and they are just like really well done though on both sides. Like they're both a lot of fun. One's more fun than the other, but like they're both, like, as a horror fan, they're two quality products, and the music is the same in both. Where it's like, yeah, it's different, but it's very well done in both. So it's tough, man. It just makes it a hard question.
Yeah, and looking at, as we were talking about, the Pray at Night's reminiscent of the fog and everything, where I think they're kind of leaning on your love for the 80s, where it's like the 2008 version is kind of just let's create something that's going to creep people out, whereas it's like, let's take things that have worked with Pray at Night and then we'll make it different, but it's going to be reminiscent. That's why people are going to love it, and it's for me, I guess I enjoy the juxtaposition of these fun songs happening during death scenes, but sometimes I think from a writing perspective, it's kind of a layup to be like, oh, that's funny, it's like it's like the juxtaposition of that works, but like to find something that's cohesive in terms of, I'm showing you a creepy scene that's building tension, and then I'm also going to create a score that's going to creep you out as well, and you're unaware of it. For me, that gets the bonus points, where it's like, I can find a fun song and put it next to someone being stabbed multiple times. And I'm not saying that there's no gravitas or creativeness to it. It's just kind of more so the norm, especially I think maybe back in 2018 where that was happening a lot. And it does happen today, but I think especially for a few years there was a big run where it was like, oh, another fun song next to a death that's happening on screen. So it's like, for me, when it's cohesive like that, I think it gets a little more bonus points from me.
And I'll say the Kids in America has never been scarier to me. Just seeing that old truck drive up with that just very subtly playing on the radio behind them. Because it's like, it's not even like it takes full center stage. It's just, you can clearly hear they're blasting that in there. I'm like, that's good. I like that. Just that song, the context of it with the strangers, it just kind of fits.
Absolutely, guys. I love this movie to death. I'm so glad we were able to talk about both Strangers films now, the past 2 Wednesdays. As we wrap this up, guys, Antonis, thank you for the $20 again. Thank you so much. As we wrap this up, what are the Splattercast guys up to this week?
I mean, it's Strangers Week, baby. We're definitely we're doing more Stranger stuff. We're gonna see Chapter 1. I've got my second episode of The Scenes That Scar Us, which is either going to be out tonight or tomorrow. I just got to jump through a few more hoops for Universal, so that way I can put the video up and not get our channel taken down. But once that's good to go, you'll know, because it'll be up there. And then, we've gotten to see some pretty cool stuff. So it's just going to be a lot of behind the scenes work, getting some reviews up. We got some fun things going on. Another slasher that we got to check out coming out at the end of the month. That's all I'll say. We're pretty excited to talk about, and I think there will probably be an appearance, if not once, maybe twice, from your boy Jake here on the Splattercast channel. So keep an eye out for that.
What's up with all that? I don't know.
We're excited for it.
It's going to be very fun, guys. I can't wait. Strangers Chapter 1 coming out this weekend. Again, I will be live Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time if you guys want to talk about it with non-spoilers at first. Then we'll get into spoilers. I will give you a warning. Don't want to spoil nobody. That would fucking suck. Not like the Strangers marketing is doing right now. So go subscribe to Splattercast. Go subscribe to Rockland Graves Entertainment, who couldn't be here tonight. He's very pretentious. Go check out his content. He's great. And thank you guys all for watching again tonight. As always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all. Peace out!